Welcome to The State of Us.
Beyond mainstream cable news and party lines, with a millennial and a boomer, The State of Us pushes past the noise and uncovers all the issues that matter.
Here's your host, Justin T. Weller.
A 4-day work week. Only 4 days of work. Does it sound too good to be true? Well, it might be, but there's a couple things that have led us to this point. 2 different articles, one from the New York Times. They want you back at the office. How can you get corporate America to return to work? Well, first you're going to have to get rid of some dead plants. And can families hang on to the slower pace of pandemic life? A Wall Street Journal article. COVID-19 provided a much-needed break from overscheduling for some children and teens. Their parents want to keep it that way. So there's a few things contributing to this notion that we're going to have to discuss today of what if we shifted to a 4-day work week? Does that mean that we'd work less? Not necessarily. And what does it tell us about society on the whole? Well, you might be surprised. Lance and I had a pretty engaging conversation ahead of time. There could be some serious danger in it. There could be some serious benefits, but we've got all of those to talk about today. And of course, we couldn't begin a conversation on working less, working more, and a slower paced life without
True Chat senior historian and an educator of more than 30 years. Here is your friendly redneck liberal, Lance Jackson.
All right, folks, you got the old white guy, but remember, friendly redneck liberal. Okay, so I've come from not very much in my life and made it what I think is fairly successful. But word of the day is nihilism, Nihilism. There are 3 definitions. There's a philosophy. There's also ethical nihilism, but we're going to use the one for politics. And nihilism, the first definition under politics for nihilism is the doctrine that existing social, political, and economic institutions must be completely destroyed in order to make way for new institutions. And there seems to be some people out there, maybe even in our listening audience, hopefully in our listening audience, who think that we just have to destroy everything to build something new. That would be nihilism. I'm not sure that's what's necessary. I think we can make some changes that would help everybody out without completely destroying our old institutions to make way for new ones. How do you feel about the way things are going right now? Going back to work? Do you like your family time that you have and making dinner every night? Or are you going to get back on the hamster wheel and start being an Uber driver for your children and eating at all the fast food places?
not to hate on our office workers at all, because a lot of True Chat's clients, the company that produces The State of Us, are those office workers. And we, in fact, do quite a bit of office work ourselves here. So some important disclosures there. But this article, they want you back at the office, how to coax corporate America to return to work. First, get rid of the dead plants.
Do we have any plants here? Because you kind of forced me back to work.
Yeah.
And I don't see any plants.
We have succulents. I set a new one on the conference table.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the others died, so.
I'd like to see some flowers.
Oh, well,
I'd like a little bit of color.
That sounds like some maintenance there. So there are some succulents that bloom. But anyway, the Lance's demand for flowering plants notwithstanding, there are some points about bringing people, quote unquote, back to work, right? Back to the office. I guess just 2 big important caveats, I think, because we're not going to spend a ton of time on back at the office and families wanting a slower pace. These are kind of the prerequisite for this greater conversation about the idea of shifting from a 5-day to a 4-day week, or from a 4-day to a 3-day week, or whatever type of week you work right now, reducing the number of days or the amount of time that you spend getting to and going from work. The point is, not everyone has that option, right, of that luxury of remote work. We talked about this some during the pandemic, and I think it's important that we not forget there's a reality that millions and millions and millions of Americans, tens of millions of people, do not work in a job where there is an option to not go into the place of work, right? That's why you still got and were able to buy the things that you bought and do the things you did during the pandemic. Because if everybody didn't go to work, then we would have starved and there would have been, and there wasn't any toilet paper for a while, but there would have been no toilet paper at all, right? And there would be no cars to drive. Instead of less right now, there'd be none, and on and on. Some people don't have that luxury. And not that it's a luxury, but the point is some people don't have that option. So I guess that's just an important thing.
I'm just thinking here as you're saying that, and not to interrupt, but just to throw this in there. Would it have made people think more about what was going on if they had to do that? If I had to mask up and go to the grocery store and do my own shopping, I know I took the pandemic very seriously and still do. And we have that talk all the time around here. But would people have taken it more seriously if they had to do that and didn't get to just shop online and have the Amazon workers deliver stuff and the UPS drivers deliver things and the Uber people, the DoorDash, whoever, go pick up their groceries and not even come in contact with another human being while they're having their groceries put in the trunk and just waving to the person? Would we all have, would it have caused a different feeling among the citizens if we all had to experience it on that same level?
I'm sure the perspective would have been different. I mean, knowing people that work in those spaces where it's like, I still have to go to work no matter what. I think that's one of those things that was easy for us to overlook. As far as why companies might want you back at the office, right? There are benefits and drawbacks. I mean, a big drawback, number one, would be the cost, right? I mean, it's expensive to have people at the office. It's expensive for you, the worker, because you have to commute there. And you have the cost associated with being able to commute, right? And you're probably a lot of people choose not to pack necessarily lunch, but maybe to go eat out at places. So you have, all the inherent costs. But from the employer perspective, if you're spending money on the office environment, that's money that you're then not spending someplace else. So a lot of companies are rethinking this. But one of the reasons that we see a lot of the major companies pushing for some return, if not a full return to in-person work, is their research and evidence indicates that there will be a less collaborative environment and possibly a less encouraging environment in terms of easier to get sidetracked, easier to waylay. At the same time, we saw some data during the pandemic that was very encouraging, that people were happier not being at the office.
Well, but if I'm a happy worker, am I more productive and therefore going to make more money for you? Those are all things that go into the mix, right? As you stir the pot and figure out what the answer is for your company.
The small businesses don't have the same luxury, but it makes me think of the scary information that you hear about the major 1-800 numbers you dial into for customer support. They have the profile information to determine how far they can upset you before losing you. How far can we push you and still keep you as a happy customer? And I'm sure to an extent that is the way that some organizations look at it is, well, we want to keep you happy, but only happy enough. They want to balance that, right? It's not just, well, let's just make you unlimited happy. It's let's make you happy to the extent that you're going to make me money being happy. Anything beyond that, we don't really care about if we can save the money. So, Lance, the other item here, right, that plays into this idea of what about less days a week is families kind of got a taste of this slower pace, spending more time together, and they think they like it, right?
Yeah, a Life and Styles article in the Wall Street Journal. Can families hang on to the slower pace of pandemic life? Obviously, they've done some studies, hard to believe, but in a civic science poll of more than 2,600 parents taken in May, 1/3, 31% of families said that they are planning on doing fewer activities than before the pandemic, or none at all, either doing fewer activities or none at all. That's a big deal, says the chief executive of Civic Science, a Pittsburgh consumer research company. While some families likely are doing fewer activities out of continued caution surrounding COVID-19, he says that the shift nonetheless demonstrates a clear evolution in how families are prioritizing their time. And they give some anecdotal evidence of families who are saying that, this isn't really what we want to do, that, we kind of got really active because it became a competition. Says 70% of parents that that have one or more children participate in at least one competitive activity out of 1,000 people surveyed by LendingTree. And that number jumped to 80% of those earning $100,000 or more. And nearly 1/4 of those parents spent $4,000 or more on those yearly activities. And about 50% of those parents said that they are often stressed out about paying for those programs. All of this found in a study according to LendingTree. So people said, you know what? We didn't have to spend the money. We didn't have to get into the rat race. And we actually enjoyed spending time with our children. Maybe we don't want to jump back onto the hamster wheel.
Sounds like something we could use, maybe. I don't know. You know, we don't ever cover on this show the challenges that kids are facing today and the incredible hurdles before them with social media and the benefits of building up those emotional and problem-solving skills. We never talk about anything like that. But all of this leads to that greater question, right, of a 4-day work week. Let's drop it from 5 to 4. Wouldn't that fix everything? Well, it might. That's what we have to talk about. Keep it here on The State of Us. We'll be right back.
We are The State of Us. Here's your host, Justin T. Weller.
Companies are trying to get you back into the office. And once you're back, what are they going to have to do to make that happen? Well, the idea of a 4-day work week is one of them. And part of the reason for that is because families have decided that this slower pace that pandemic life brought might be something they're interested in. Spending more time together, seeing their kids grow up, and maybe, Lance, right, doing some stuff with their children that maybe not only are fun, but actually help their children be better prepared for life.
Well, like this mom said, she goes, with less rushing around, quote, I make better dinners. My kids are healthier. I saw how happy it made them. They stay and hang out after we get done with dinner instead of off and running. Her 13-year-old daughter quit Girl Scouts, chorus, musicals, all of which had continued on Zoom or masked during the pandemic. She said it was stressful and when I was busy, and I really wasn't that happy. So instead, she started volunteering at the nearby equestrian center, feeding livestock and cleaning barns. She found that being in nature had a soothing effect. She made new friends. This coming school year, she will continue working at the farm and on the school newspaper, but that's all. And a 15-year-old son played on one soccer team this spring, not the normal 2, and instead put up a gym in his own garage, built his own squat rack, and just began running long distances several times a week, and says he feels healthier and more at ease than he ever has at any other time in his life. So, volunteering, doing something for other people, finding new friends, taking time for yourself, going on long runs, sitting down with your family to eat a dinner that you've prepared yourselves, and taking time to actually have a conversation while you eat actually led to more conversations at home and feeling more connected. I'm just saying.
So this isn't something, I mean, Lance and I have hypothesized, right, about this for a while, but this is what people are telling us throughout the pandemic that they're interested in. And we want to hear from you. Is this something you experienced or you know people that experienced? You can send us an email, podcast@thestateofus.org, podcast@thestateofus.org. We'd like to hear from you and hear what was your experience. What would you like to see change after COVID? Because that brings us to this idea of a 4-day work week. And in fairness, there's going to be people on both sides, right? We need to work less. We need to enjoy life more. So we need less work for the same pay. And then there's going to be the people on the other side screaming, are you crazy? Why do we need to work less? That's not how you get ahead, right? We got to work more. And folks, the reality is here, there's a lot of different variations of this 4-day work week thing. Okay. Many of the variations that companies have tried out don't actually involve working any less. It's just changing the structure of how much when you're working, right? So rather than coming in for 8 hours over 5 days, one of the common variations is 10 hours over 4 days. Okay. Another common variation, and they've been doing this in the oil and energy industry a long time, is you're off every other Friday, and every day that you come in is 9 hours. Do the math. That's an average of 80 hours every 2 weeks, right? So that's the same thing as working 2 weeks, 5 days a week at 8 hours a day, except it's 9 hours a day. So 1 more hour, right? Every day that you're in, and every other Friday you get off. And then there's also, healthcare would point out to you, right? My husband would tell you that, well, in healthcare for years and years and years, most full-time workers are something like either 3/12s, right? 3 days, 12 hours each time. Or some are 7 days on, 7 days off, right? So there are all kinds of variations of this same
or
theme
one
and method.
week you go 3 days and the next week you work 4 days.
Right.
And you get 84 hours over a 2-week period.
Exactly. So there's all kinds of variations. Some industries already do this. For the most part, in the feedback that we've heard anyway, and again, if you work for a company that does this or you've thought about it, send us an email, podcast@thestateofus.org. It seems like employees are happier and more productive this way. At the same time, it does mean a restructuring because the days that you're there are probably going to be more intense, right? There's probably not going to be as many water cooler discussions, or you're not going to, maybe if you're in a factory, right, you're not going to work at the same steady pace. You might be working at a slightly higher pace to get things done. But then you also have the variations, and these ones are the ones that people have more trouble with, where you've heard, some tech companies and stuff, well, you're just going to work 4 days a week now. You're expected to get the same amount done. And if you can get it done in less time, you get the same pay. So there's a lot of different versions of this idea of a 4-day work week or less, depending on the industry you're in. The question is this a good thing? Because it didn't used to be a 5-day work week, did it? That changed in the early 1900s.
No, historically it was, you got Sunday off or Sunday morning off.
Right. If you were lucky.
And you were required to go to church.
Yeah.
But it was a 6 to 7 hour, as early, as late as 100 and 120 years ago, it was a big fight to go to a 10-hour workday because it was a 12-hour workday and it was 6 or 7 days a week. And if you didn't like it, you got fired. That was your choice, so we've worked it down to now, to 10, and then we worked it to 8. And for the last, 80, 90 years, it's been pretty much a 40-hour work week, and anything over that's considered overtime. And we've seen the restructuring of the 40-hour work week. And I guess that's kind of where I am, is I don't understand. I'm saying that a little facetiously.
Because there are some concerns.
Wouldn't we like to all work a little bit less and make a little bit more money? I think that's a common denominator. But I don't understand. You have a job that is 40 hours a week. Now I only want to work 30 hours a week, but I want the same amount of pay. I just have a real hard trouble with that. I do like the idea of being able to have some flex time, though, that especially if you're commuting in a major metropolitan area,
deciding when and how.
What traffic pattern do I want to be in? How does it best benefit my lifestyle? Am I single? Am I with someone else and it's just the two of us? Do I have children? Would I like to be free in the evening? I know one of my daughters this summer typically works in the evening because she covers sporting events at high schools as an athletic trainer. She's getting to get off work at 4:00. She's excited. She's going to have a nightlife for the next 4 or 5 weeks until the high school sports start back up the first week in August. So I think there are people that if it fits your lifestyle, again, and it's doable at your work, but again, don't we even do that with shift work? Right? Do you want to work first shift? Do you want to work second shift? Well, yeah, most people want to work first shift because that's quote, normal. But at the same time, if you don't have children who are doing after school activities, maybe you take the second shift, because then you're going to work when it's not too busy of traffic, you can still get things done in the morning. And when you get home at midnight or 1 a.m., your head can hit the pillow and go to bed, and you still have some semblance of normalcy, yet you're not out there with everybody else. And you get to go to the store on Tuesday mornings when nobody else is there.
Well, and there's some concerns about this, right? That I think, if nothing else, right, they merit exploration. One of the concerns is that this is going to be very industry specific. Because, for example, it sounds good, right? If I work in an office environment, go in for my 4 days, be off for 3 days, no big deal. But those 3 days that you're off, we ask, right? You still want your Amazon delivered, right? You still want your restaurant staffed. Well, of course, because I've got to have, okay. So, but those people, right? They don't get it because they're in the service industry. And a lot of those jobs are maybe not 24/7, but they're 7-day-a-week kind of businesses. That's how they make their money. They can't make the money. So now they're going to close during the week. Well, now I don't have any place to go out to eat. So now I don't need to go into the office. And so you can see how this creates this kind of...
But is it really? Because the waiter that serves you breakfast isn't the same one that's going to serve you dinner. And you're going to have different shifts of people that in your restaurant business.
Well, and that brings us to the next issue.
And then you have the part-time workers, which I know during the pandemic, one of my daughters was looking for a part-time job. And they said, no, we want you available full-time, but we're only going to work you part-time. What? And that wasn't that way. I would go and apply for a job and it's like, okay, I'm in school. Okay, do you want to work mornings or evenings? And so I would work part-time, 20, 25 hours a week, but I kind of got to pick whether I was going to work 5 to 10 at night or whether I was going to work 7 to 11 or 7 to noon in the morning based on when my classes were. So where is that? I see that going out the window. Businesses now want you available all the time so that they can meet their peak demand whenever it is, but they only want to work you part-time. I'm not sure as the business, you should have that power over the worker.
Well, and one of the issues is it brings up two things. One is businesses that suffer those peaks and valleys, they're going to become even more unpredictable if you move to it. And again, folks, this is not me saying this. I'm just telling you some things people have brought up to us that I think are worthy of conversation, right? You're going to cycle, your peaks and valleys are going to be less predictable. The more people that are on these altered schedules, right? The less system there is to a consistent week, the less you can count on a Monday through Friday 9 to 5 thing, the harder it is, particularly for small businesses, because they don't have access to the same data analytics and the same ability to, track this kind of stuff. They don't have the same money to pay big highfalutin consulting firms to figure it out for them, right? The harder it is for them to plan when to be open, when to be profitable. And again, doesn't mean we can't figure out a way around that, but it's to say, we don't want to just go into this and forget about it, because the reality is it's not just going to hurt them, it's going to hurt you, because then you're going to be like, well, this is my day off, but none of the places I want to go are open. Well, that's because this is not a peak time for them. The point is, it's great to talk about this, but if we're going to work less and still satisfy the demand, whether it's we're working less days or actually working less total hours. I gave Lance the example before the air of, if I work in real estate and I just tell people, they reach out on a Thursday evening and they leave a message and I don't get back to them until Monday, I lost that sale. Forget it. I mean, that's like I run with my husband a wedding business, right? If I don't reply to a lead over the weekend, forget it. I mean, you're off their list, and that's not, I can't, you should be nicer to us because, they don't give a damn. That's when it's convenient for them because those are their days off. So that's that. It's not that I don't think this is a good idea. I think there's things like that we're going to have to figure out because everybody's going to be upset. The people that are in the jobs that are inconvenienced by it and the people who are off, there's some of that stuff that we're going to have to figure out.
Well, stay tuned because your friendly redneck, we got to go to break.
He's got some ideas.
I got something to throw back at you about that kind of stuff. I'm not so sure you would lose the business.
Oh, he's got some ideas, folks, and that's why we're doing this, right, is to have that conversation. These are some thoughts I heard this morning on the radio. We thought we'd share them here with you. And we want to know what you think. Send us an email, podcast@thestateofus.org. And see if you can beat the friendly redneck liberal in here. You have a break coming up. Get those comments in, and we'll hear what he's got to say. Keep it here on The State of Us, and we'll be right back.
We are The State of Us. Here's your host, Justin T. Weller.
Worker shortages, industry problems. Man, this 4-hour week, Lance, it sounds like it's no good. No bueno. It ain't gonna work. Everything's gonna suck. So why not? Why can it work? How can it happen?
Well, I think we're already doing it, and it's not that it's going to be there for everybody. Where we're not, I don't think that's, I mean, if you're talking that, then now you're talking the socialist idea. You're not talking democracy.
Isn't that what our country
and
wants, though?
Republicanism.
Just a check every month?
I don't know.
For nothing?
I think there are people that want that.
Okay.
But I don't think as a nation we want that. I know I don't want that.
Okay.
Because that would not give me any sense of belonging, any sense of achievement.
Do people want that?
I do. I mean,
sorry, I'm getting us off track.
You
can
can ask my wife. I don't feel like I bring anything into our household because I just get paid at the beginning of the month with my retirement check, which is why I've been retired for 5 years now, and I've worked 4 of them for a paycheck.
Right.
Because I don't see my retirement check, which I paid for, which was taken out of my paycheck every 2 weeks for 30 years. It's not
money you already earned.
It's money I already set aside, but beside the point, I am old enough, believe it or not. I remember when businesses were closed on Sunday, all day. Sunday was a day of rest. You couldn't go to the movies. You couldn't go to the grocery store. You couldn't get a prescription filled unless you knew the pharmacist personally and could call them at home. And they would go in and open the store for you. And we all made it. We all survived. I'm reminded of an old TV episode of the Andy Griffith Show where Aunt Bee's sitting on the porch after church. She goes, people just don't know how to slow down anymore. And this was circa 1962. Can you imagine people today if we just said, you know what? Sunday is a day of rest. I'm not trying to get religious on you people, whether you want to go to your church or your synagogue or your shrine or like I do out to the trees every Thursday morning and worship like the Druids used to. I don't care what your religion is, but what if we said, like we did 60 years ago, we're going to shut everything down 1 day a week. You can't get Prime delivery on Sunday. UPS isn't going to stop. Oh my gosh. I mean, we don't get mail delivery on Sunday. I mean, they're talking about shutting the mail, bringing the mail back just Monday through Friday. Maybe we need some of that. Maybe not. It's not a shorter work week for the same money. Maybe we need all to just have a day of rest in our week to where, well, this is my day off, so I'm going to go to the grocery store. No, you're going to rest. The grocery stores are closed. Walmart's closed. Everything's closed. They can't go to work because everything's closed. They can't go shopping and go to the stores because they're closed. So now we can get together and we can have a sense of community and we can do relaxing things together.
I think I'm going to have a hat made for Lance. And, there's the MAGA hats, right? Everybody knows what those are. But we're going to have Mara hats, M-A-R-A, Make America Rest Again.
As long as it's not red, I'll wear it.
That's going to be Lance's campaign. I think it's got to be red, right? It's got to be almost the same font and everything. Just Make America Rest Again.
But then people are going to assume that I'm part of the MAGA, and I'm not that.
People are going to make an assumption without knowing you, and they're going to judge you, and they're going to, that sounds like another one of those bad things about instant gratification society because we don't take time to get to know anybody. We just assume that because X, Y, or Z, right, that they must think this, that, or the other, and we don't care why they think it or if they have any reasons for thinking it. We're just going to yell and scream.
Yeah.
But
political cartoon I saw in the paper the other day. It said to a teacher, "You can't teach X in the classroom." Well, how do you know I do that? Well, because Hannity told me you do. And but how does Hannity know? Well, because Tucker Carlson said you know. That's what you do. And well, why don't you ask me what I do? Oh, no, there's no way because you'd lie to me.
Right.
You think that kind of describes our society? And it can be the other way around. Oh, that's what Joe Scarborough said. Oh, that's what Rachel Maddow said. Well, again, did you ask me? Well, no, I don't have to because they told me that's what you're thinking and that's what you're doing. Why don't we just ask the people involved? Why don't we go? We had Grandpa had an old saying, you know, if you want to know something, go to the horse's mouth.
And do we think about
go to the person who's in charge of that and ask them. They'll tell you.
Why do these people, and I say these people, who are we talking about? We're talking about the media elite. We're talking about the politicians, right? Why do they say those things, right? That you can't trust. No, you can't go to them because they'll lie. You can't go to the people in the situation because they won't tell you the truth. Why might they say that to you? Well, maybe because if you went and spoke to those people and you saw that they're humans too, and that they have challenges in life and that they're just trying to get by and they're just trying to build, you might have empathy for them. And then, oh, gee, there might be compromise and we might work together and we might get something done. And you know who getting something done is bad for, Lance? Well, there's a couple entities that come to mind. It's the media, because getting things done isn't sexy, because it usually involves compromise. So it's not big flashy stuff. It's incremental change over time, which is boring and we can't sell that. That's not breaking news. That's just lame. And the other people it doesn't sell for are Democrats and Republicans, because their whole party is based off of the idea that if we can just blame the other guy for all of our problems, then we can stay in power.
So we should shut the country down one day a week. So we all have to
fix
learn
everything.
to get to know, and that would fix it all. There you go, folks.
Well, we're done. We can shutter the state of us.
If we haven't given you something to write to us about, what do you think about that? Now, those of you that are 60 or older, like yours truly, you might remember those days when you went to Grandma and Grandpa's because there was nothing else to do because it was Sunday, because everything else was shut down. For those of you that aren't that old, though, you know, for our younger listeners, what do you think of that? Think of that concept. You can't shop. I guess if you wanted to, you could place an order on Amazon or something, but it's not going to get looked at till Monday morning. But I would be an advocate of saying those websites are shut down. You have to interact with other humans. I'm there, man. I'm there. Let me know. We'll start the campaign. We'll make the posters. We'll get the hats. We'll start selling them, the mugs, the backpacks, the T-shirts. And it didn't have to be Sunday. I'm just telling you, from my days, that's when it was. Pick a Wednesday. My day that I don't like are Thursdays. I've despised Thursdays for my entire working life. I don't know why I don't like Thursdays. Let's shut everything down on a Thursday. I'm there. Let me know how much support I've got.
Closed on Thursdays.
The whole country shuts down on Thursdays.
Mara, make America rest again. This idea that I shared in another episode, Lance, and I think this is why this is all the more important now more than ever. You know, Lance is a boomer and he may not necessarily live to see this, but if you're, 40 or under, I contend that there's a pretty good chance that we are going to live to see massive unemployment on a world scale like we haven't seen in a long time, because automation is coming along, folks. We got some episodes planned. It's coming. And I hate to break it to you, but the industry, the engines of capitalism are not going to idle and stand still just because it might hurt some people, because that's not what it does. It makes money. And so the point is, as we're going to face this time when the nature of work is going to change drastically, whether we want it to or not, we can talk about all this 4-day work week stuff and a day of rest and all these things. But at the end of the day of rest, I think the biggest thing it's going to help us do is it's going to help us decide, what do we really care about in life? Because when we get to the point where we're going to have 30% of the population unemployed, which again, I'm no longer thinking that's an if, I think it's a when, and I'm afraid that I'm going to live to see it. We have some big things to tackle, and we are not in a position to tackle those today. We as a society are not in a headspace to tackle those things.
It's going to happen sooner rather than later, and it's better to plan for it and put some things in place now than let's be proactive instead of being reactive when it hits us in the face 10, 15, 20, 30 years down the road. Because it's going to happen. But it shows us, right? The Industrial Revolution it's the same concept. We got rid of child labor. We didn't need them anymore. We got rid of the factory girls. We didn't need them anymore because we had machines to do the work.
Yep.
And so, then what do? We just upped the mandatory age to go to school. All of a sudden, everybody had to go to school. Why? Because we didn't need you to work in the factory. We didn't need you to work on the farm because we got machines to do the work. So we didn't need human labor. So that's how we got rid of child labor. That's how we got rid of women in the workforce because we got machines. And that's what we're doing now, right? That's what you're saying. We're going to have another one of those sooner rather than later.
It's going to be even bigger. And that's why Lance's Day of Rest is important. Whether or not it's a, institutionalized thing or whether or not you make it part of your life, building empathy with our fellow Americans is absolutely essential to solving big problems. And I don't think that we're in a position, if we were faced with that today, I'm not sure we could get it done because we'd be more concerned about pointing the finger at each other and blaming somebody else rather than trying to figure out a way through it. And we can do great things when we work together and sometimes work hard, right? And have empathy. But when we don't have those things, that's where we get to where we are now. And so I think this conversation, Lance, to me, builds itself to that much bigger point of rest is going to be important. The more that we're on social media, the more we're working, the less we're thinking and spending time together, the more likely it is that things are going to go poorly for us in the future rather than better. And that's why we're having these conversations, right? Is because we want to foster an environment where we can talk to each other.
Well, like Grandpa used to say, if you point the finger at somebody else, there's at least 3, depending on how you point, 4 fingers pointing back at you. So you're 80% of the problem. All the problems in your life, you're probably 60 to 80% of the problem. So analyze yourself first and quit blaming others. But anyway, it is, that's our mission here at True Chat. We're trying to educate people by providing honest, open, and respectful conversations. And that's what I'm talking about, the Day of Rest. It wasn't that long ago, people, that we did that. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. It really could happen. But, what do you think? Have that talk with your family, with your friends, with your coworkers. And they say, where do you get these crazy ideas? Oh, it's that friendly redneck liberal on the State of Us. And tell them they can listen to the show too. They can find us on Spotify, Overcast, Stitcher, Apple Podcast, and anywhere podcasts are found.
You can hear the State of Us Tuesdays and Thursdays by 4 a.m. Eastern Time as a podcast. As Lance mentioned, everywhere podcasts are found. And you can also hear us on the weekends in select talk radio, AM and FM radio markets around the country. So check your local talk station and see if they carry our show. For the State of Us on True Chat in Urbana, Ohio, I'm Justin T. Well.
I'm Lance Jackson.
Special thanks to our producer, Bradley Butch, and thank you all, our audience, for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Be the change. Be sure to check out our website, thestateofus.org, for books, articles, and all the ways to tune in. thestateofus.org.